Alex Habersham, publisher of the Macon, Middle Georgia Black Pages. I'm happy to inform the community, particularly business owners, that we're working on a new edition of the Macon, Middle Georgia Black Pages and Resource Guide.
Coming soon.
So call today. You need to be a part of this.
Your resource guide to identify Black-owned businesses throughout Central Georgia.
You either get your free listing and or your ad in the upcoming edition.
We try to make it very easy through our book, electronic and digital formats, and social media. Reserve your ad space today.
Call 478-464-0074.
Visit our website at maconblackpages.com.
You cannot afford not to advertise.
Download the app.
The new Macon, Middle Georgia Black Pages and Resource Guide is on the way.
Coming soon.
Miss Sparks, Miss Walton, Miss Duhart, Miss Hughes, Miss Victor, Miss Riggins, and Miss Howard. Now, those are my elementary teachers over 50 years ago. And I think if, in fact, more than 50 years later, I could remember those ladies and the impact that they had in my life, that says something about the relevance and the importance of education. I also remember Mr. George Espy, who was my high school English teacher. And believe it or not, I went to college and majored in English based on his influence on me. Now, I use that too long introduction and too personal introduction for a reason. A lot of people don't realize and accept and acknowledge and understand the importance of school and education in our lives and in our society. Not being braggadocious, but I have been a little successful. And let me hasten to say that all of it is based on the experiences that I had as a young man from the public housing who went to public schools. So I'm more than a little happy today to be able to have with us Dr. Dan A. Sims, I think is who in fact is our superintendent. Now, there's an old gospel song that talks about a personal testimony. Well, I expressed that testimony to try to influence somebody, to try to let the whole community know about the role that education plays. I mean, regardless of whether you homeschooling your child, got no children in school, whether they're in private school, wherever they are, and wherever you are, and whether you got no children or not. So what I want our illustrious superintendent to do today, he's my guest, just to talk about how the community, amongst other things that he wishes to talk about, look, as education goes, as the community goes, that's undebatable. So if in fact we play a most significant and conscientious role in supporting and helping and using the village approach with education, everybody benefits. Everybody benefits. Economically, spiritually, academically, educationally, and other kind of lids. So we want Dr. Sims, and welcome to Macon, man. I told you that briefly, but I didn't have the time to really chat with you about it. And I know you know Macon because I heard about you when you came to Macon. You went all through. You probably know more about Macon than I do.
Yes, sir. I thank you so much. Honored to be here. Glad we met some time ago, and just great to be on the show today. And yes, I have learned a great deal about this wonderful city. I continue to learn a great deal, and just glad to have this time of exchange. And I think it's critical, to your point, in reference to the importance of education for everybody. Yes, indeed. You know, I want to give you actually my definition of schooling. I have a very simple definition I tell everybody. Schooling is simply a world function where big people work with little people to make better people for all the people. So essentially what we are doing as a public education entity, it is for everybody. And since it is for everybody, then everybody needs to be involved and engaged. And I appreciate you giving me this platform just to speak about the importance of everybody being engaged. So just looking forward to the exchange, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you got so many initiatives going on, but let's just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes, sir. So I'm a homegrown Georgia boy. Spent most of my childhood and adult life in Atlanta and East Point, Georgia. This is my 28th year in education. Started in education back in 1995 as a mathematics teacher. As I came up in education, I actually spent most of my career at the middle school and the high school I attended as a child. So I was that kid who grew up in the neighborhood and then came right back to teach in that exact same neighborhood, be an assistant principal, a coach, a dean of students, and a principal in the same neighborhood that I grew up in. I'm a man of faith, ordained minister, and while I don't have my own church, I preach in the absence of my minister. I marry people. I've been doing that for the longest. And I have a beautiful wife of 26 years plus. She's an educator as well. I have a son who's 19 at Stillman College in Tuscaloosa. I have a daughter in heaven, and I have a daughter who's 16 years old, starting her senior year in Fulton County. It's funny how I got into education. I was actually at Georgia Tech. Give you the short version. I was at Georgia Tech on a full scholarship, and I was on that full scholarship because I received it, and my family could not afford to send me to college. After that second year at Georgia Tech, Mr. Havisham, I went to an event on an October Saturday morning at an elementary school where Teach for America was doing a volunteer event. I came back to my room after that volunteer event in 1990, and I said to myself, I'm doing the wrong thing. And I switched my whole trajectory in life. I left the school, I left the state to become an educator. And it is by far one of the greatest decisions that I ever made. Of course, I believe in work-life balance. I'm an avid golfer, love to golf. I would golf every day if you let me. This job won't let me, so I get out there whenever I possibly can. I'm a 23-year cancer survivor. I had cancer when I was 28 or 22 years, when I was 28 years old. So that was a very early diagnosis in my life, but I've been just living on faith ever since then. It just gave me a new lease on life, refined my perspective on life and on people, and just glad now to be in this space, to be responsible for 20,000 plus students and all these amazing staff and faculty members that I have. And I consider myself thoroughly prepared to serve in this role, do it with dignity, do it in such a way that God will be pleased. And just great to be in the city of Macon. So that's just a little bit about myself.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, let's talk about school. What I want to talk about, I'm going to frame this thing. I'm going to talk about what's going on in the school system, what kind of initiative you've got going on as it relates to Victory in Progress and Built for Bibb. You know, I know you're going to explain what is meant by that, but what's very important from the way I look at it, from my perspective, is that we've got to prick the conscientiousness of the entire community as it relates to our obligation and our responsibility to make sure that to the best of everything, to the extent possible, that we support and endorse and encourage education, for a good education for everybody. And very quickly, you know, I mirror your going back to the high school. I went back to the high school I graduated from.
Fantastic.
And I taught there. I taught them. My principal sent for me. He said, boy, I was teaching in Savannah. He said, boy, you better come on back here. So I started teaching at Ballard Hudson High School a few years ago. And,
wow, so you can relate to that. That's awesome.
Yeah, left there and went into business. So Great. Let's talk about your initiatives first And then you could intertwine, if you would, how the community, how all facets of the community, neighborhoods, nonprofits, the chamber of commerce, the churches, the fraternities, and the sororities, and just everyday people can
Yes.
be involved in what you're trying to accomplish with a quality education of our children.
No, I appreciate that. I'll start with Victory in Progress, VIP. Kudos to Colonel Jones and the phenomenal job that he did over the past 7 years in leading this great district. And VIP has been an amazing movement tied through the strategic plan, and it literally is what's happening. Victory that is in progress every single day. We will continue that. But as we move forward, my main initiative, the best way I can explain it is under my hashtag Built for Bibb. Let me take time to explain that, and it'll answer the question that you're giving me. Initially, Built for Bibb simply meant that my talents and my experiences and my passion and heart and studies has built me to be the superintendent of Bibb County. But as I continue to think and meditate and pray on it, Built for Bibb became and now is this clarion call to the entire community to now refine their experiences and their skills and their talents and everything that they can bring to meet the specified needs of every single student in every single class, in every single building, every single day. And the reason I say every single day, right now, everybody's doing a fantastic job with the back to school rallies, the events, giving away supplies, giving book bags. And while I appreciate every single one of those efforts, those are events. And what we cannot do is get lulled into sleep to think that we do an event and then we're done. That's almost like letting the cruise ship go off. Once that cruise ship gets off the ship, now you got to entertain everybody on that ship for the whole trip. So now it is our time to entertain the dreams and the hopes and the wishes of every single student. So Built for Bibb is about everybody finding their way to lock themselves in to every single student, whether you are a business owner, a faith leader, a parent, a community organization. I don't care who you are. We want everybody to lock in. Let me explain why Built for Bibb is so important, though, and why everybody's so important. I'm going to pursue it from 3 angles: values, safety, and learning. Let's talk about values first. I was at one of the schools recently. I was talking to one of the football teams, and they were talking about their school, and they talked so highly about their coach and the teacher and everybody who was inside the building and how great they felt. And then I asked them a question. I said, well, tell me about Macon. And that's what I got from them. Now, I'm just a messenger. But essentially what these young men told me is that they did not feel a sense of value from the entire community. So Built for Bibb is a call for everybody to stop looking over our students and look at them in the eye. Make them feel a sense of value in the city that they live in. And we can easily do that without spending one single solitary dime. That's just the beauty of human contact. So the first call to the community is, let's get back to what you just spoke to, the village. If you recall, the village, everybody's kid was everybody's kid. Nobody let a child walk by without getting checked, without getting encouraged. Everybody did it. We've gotten away from that. And what I want to try to do is rebuild that spirit using everybody inside the community as far as adults are concerned. Excuse me. The second prong, safety. Everybody's concerned about, if what's going to happen if something tragic goes on at a school or somebody brings a gun. And while these things are those unfortunate realities, safety doesn't start at a school. Safety doesn't end at a school. So when we talk school safety, that's a conversation that really means community safety. So I need for all of our adults, again, business leaders, faith leaders, everybody in the like, to get on board in terms of what we can do to promote the highest level of safety for everybody inside the community, so that what happens in the school can mirror what happens inside the community. And both of those two run hand in hand together. And I believe it's everybody's responsibility to promote the safety of what happens to our left and to our right. We can no longer turn a blind eye to a community we don't live in. or a store we don't shop at, or a student who's not ours, because when we turn that blind eye, what it does, it feeds the breaches in safety that we see going on day in and day out. We as a school will do our part inside this house, but we are a house inside of a neighborhood that has to work together. The third one, and it's hard to say which one is most important, but the third one is critical, and that is learning. One of the things we learned from COVID is learning actually can take place anywhere. Everybody was forced into their homes, and learning actually still took place. Not in the same way as in the schoolhouse, because they weren't together. They didn't have that communal approach. So learning is a critical piece. And what we want to do is make sure this community supports us. Once we identify the needs that students have, that we support those students in terms of meeting those particular needs. For example, let's say hypothetically, somebody tells me my son is reading 2 grades below level. My immediate question is going to be, well, what do you need for me to do? I want to make it such that now the football coach knows that my son is reading 2 grades below level. And he asks, or she asks, what do I need to do? I want the rec center to know as well. I want the faith community, so that everybody can now lean in to that student's needs. And once you lean into a student's needs and a student's deficits, it is at that time that we are able to clearly meet everybody's internal faculty, so that now they feel like they're somebody. And that's going to help them feel a sense of value. It's going to help them take more seriously their community and want to be more safe. The last piece, Mr. Havisham, in terms of Built for Bibb, is this. Macon is a historic community. People grew up here. They still live here. So what we want to do is build our students up to meet the standard of Bibb County. Many of these students may not ever leave Bibb County, which is not a bad thing at all. And if you don't plan on leaving, now we need you to get this education in such a way that you are built up to continue the standard of success and the rich history that Macon Bibb County already holds. So it has several layers built for Bibb, but the main parts is what I just talked about in terms of getting our adults involved in every single aspect of every student's life, so that they can all feel successful and actually be successful.
Let me mention something to you that I think will be crucial. Because, I started a mentoring program a few years back called the Adopt a Role Model Program. And I was able to get 112 African-American males. It was designed specifically for African-American boys, centered around the 4th grade syndrome. And people said, man, you crazy. You think you're going to get this done? Well, I got it done. And I was able to get 112. I'm talking about one-on-one mentoring, to serve as mentors for these mentees. So, I bring that up to ask you to specifically, I got them involved because I asked them. I went to them and asked them, I did personally and individually. So let's talk about a mechanism, all those entities that you mentioned that can support the system. Let's talk about a mechanism and a pathway, because you're going to have some people who say, well, yeah, I want to help. Well, yeah, I want to help. Well, how can they help? What's a process for an individual, a nonprofit, an organization, a fraternity or a sorority, or a church to be involved?
Well, that's great. That's great. So I'll speak up to a couple of processes. So one of my visions, just to help this question out, is for every school to have their own local system of support. That is, that a school is able to put a student at the center of a circle, if you will, and to be able to draw around that student all the elements of support for that particular set of students. So one process is for organizations to either choose from a district level or a local school level where they want to serve. Now, if you want to serve at a local school level, what I'm pushing on my schools now to do is to be prepared to identify what your needs are, so that if and when somebody comes to your door, you already have a list of needs. And you're able to sit and have a conversation with them about those needs, whether it is mentorship for 12 students or supplies for some students in need, a washing machine for students who might not be able to wash their clothes at home. Have that list ready. So when people come to the door, they can say, okay, I can plug in here, 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 and or here. That's going to be one of the main processes. Another process has to do with just choosing a lane. For example, if it is the case that a mentors program wants to get involved with the school, that's your lane. So now I want that organization to come to schools and not just ask, how can I help? Be able to say, here's what I'm able to provide. How does this meet the need that you have? So it's either going to be, you're going to ask, how can I help? Or you say, here's how we serve. Now, how can we help? So that now there can be a good conversation going on between the two. Ultimately, what I want for every single school to be able to do is draw their local system of support and identify everybody who surrounds that student. And not just everybody who surrounds the student, but exactly what it is that they are doing to support that school that aligns to the identified needs of the school. Let me go specific though, in terms of the business community. One of the things we're striving to do this year, and it's in a conditioning phase, is to start paying more attention to when students start learning who they are. And we go through school from pre-K to about 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. It's about me learning math, me learning science, me learning how to read. But at some point, those two words, they change places. And now it's focused on learning me. And it's at that time that we lose students. When they start learning who they are, the world starts to make more sense to them. They know what words mean. They know how to be upset and mean and nasty. They learn all those things from the world. We learned it as well. And it's at that point that we have to plug students in. So once the student starts learning who he or she is, specifically with the business community, I want to be able to say, hypothetically, that Alex said that he wants to be a chiropractor. I want to be able to go to my Rolodex or my phone and dial up a local chiropractor and say, sir, ma'am, would you mind if Alex comes down to your business after school twice a week just to shadow you? And let him do that from 6th grade to 12th grade. What impact is that going to have on Alex? All kinds of impact. And can you imagine if every single business entity in Macon allocated for certain slots of schools and students to be able to come and see what they want to be, makes all the difference in the world. So now when that kid goes to school, they feel differently. So that's the mechanism, if you will.
Well, you'd be glad to know that I got 2 upstairs in my office right now. 2 students. Yeah.
Outstanding.
Brianna and Cavalli, and I'm looking for more. So that's a good move. And we got an initiative we were talking about, and I'll talk to you about that later. Okay, so specifically, if I'm in Unionville, what was that thing? I heard y'all had an exciting event over there in Northeast on the east side.
The East Side Out Loud.
I said everybody heard it too because it was out loud. So
it was out loud.
If in fact from a particular area, if there is a business that has specific values and what have you that they can bring to that school, how should they approach it? Because you know what my philosophy is? Excuses come out of trash cans. So we don't want anybody, and I'm not being mean with this, but we want people to be involved, and we don't want to give them any excuse,
right,
for not being involved. If a church says they are interested, then I want them to know what's the process to use to be involved and be a part of the village that we talked about.
Absolutely. So they can do one of 2 things. They can either contact my office. I have somebody always watching my email. And in that email, I need them to be specific. I would like to be involved in said school in my neighborhood so that now we can play the middleman or woman to get them connected to that school. Or if they feel that they're able to, just go to the school and leave their information, ask for the principal or the partnership coordinator so we can get them connected to the school. What we're not going to do is engage in a bunch of red tape as far as involvement and engagement is concerned. However, we do bear the burden and the responsibility of ensuring that any adult who interacts with any child passes a thorough background check and is clear as far as engagement is concerned. So barring those things that have to happen, it's just as simple as reaching out to myself or to the school directly, and then let it flow from there. And I've already seen amazing examples of that happening. I also need for them to be prepared too for visits to their businesses. Because one of the things I'm going to be pushing my principals to do is get out into the community a little bit more and reach out to businesses and ask. And I just hope they're prepared to say yes.
Yeah, we can have a conversation about that later on too, because the Black Pages certainly will support that effort. Well, let me thank you for that living testimony, as the old gospel song goes.
That's a good one.
And let me encourage everybody in the community to, it takes a village, and we all got a responsibility and a role to play in the process. Let me congratulate you for hitting the ground running. And I smell the rubber because it had already hit the road.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
And I thank you for all that you do. This is a call to action. I'm your host, Alex Habersham, having interviewed Dr. Dan Sims, Superintendent of the Bibb County Board of Education. And he's not saying it, but I'm gonna say it for him. There's an old saying that says, if it is to be, it's up to me.
Yes.
So what you need to do, it's up to you to support education and do the things that you can do, because with a sound, prosperous, and effective educational system, everybody wins. I repeat, everybody wins. With children, without children, old, young, or what have you, employed or unemployed. Everybody wins. Thank you, Doc. You got it.
Thank you.
You got 30 seconds for a final comment.
Hey, I want to thank the community in advance. I have all the faith in the world that people are going to get involved, and children are going to benefit, and all of us are going to benefit if we all get involved. And I want this whole community to be built for Bibb. Let's do it. We deserve it. We owe it to ourselves. And I'm thanking you in advance.
We're going to scroll your email address across the stream, unless you want to give it right quick.
I can give it real quick. Dan.sims, that's dan.sims at bcsdk12.net. It's Bibb County School District, bcsdk12.net.
This is a call to action. I'm your host, Alex Habersham, having interviewed Dr. Dan Sims, Superintendent of the Bibb County Board of Education. Be responsive and have a great day.
www.makingblackpages.com.
This is Alex Habersham, publisher of the Macon Middle Georgia Black Pages. I'm happy to inform the community, particularly business owners, that we're working on a new edition of the Macon Middle Georgia Black Pages and Resource Guide.
Coming soon.